Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, so what have we been doing these days before we begin the lecture? What have we been doing these days? So let me share something with you before we start. As we all know, excuse me, is there any water here? Oh, we're fasting. Huh? Just a little bit.
Less than good.
So, yes, when someone fasts, if they reach a point where they reach unbearable hardship, intolerable, unbearable hardship, hus and haraj in Arabic will say, then it's not wajib for them to continue their fast. So they can have something to eat, just enough to get rid of that state of, that extreme hunger that's bothering them. We all know this ruling, right? And all of Islamic laws have this condition, that if haraj comes about, then it's not wajib to do that wajib thing. For example, standing while you pray. If it causes hardship, it causes pain, it causes whatever, you don't have to do it anymore. Yeah? And other rulings, same thing. You're stuck in the desert, you're going through unbearable hardship because of not finding food, and what do you know? There's just one haram Outback Steakhouse. So, do I die out of hunger, or do I go to the place that I've always wanted to go to, but because it was haram, I couldn't go? Of course, here Islam says you can go. Not only can you go, if your life depends on it, it's wajib to go. Alhamdulillah. So, we have this everywhere in Islam. Now, I want to apply this law to a certain situation that someone was asking the other night. And that is the whole story of some people who, they go to work in the daytime. Now, when you fast, it's going to be harder when you're working and it's not easy. I don't know, if you're the younger ones, you're going to school, it gets hard to an extent. Yes, all of that is true. But they say that just being hard isn't enough for you to break your fast. But now some people, their work is very hard. For example, like back home in Iran, people who work in the bakery, they're making the bread with their hands. And it gets extremely, extremely hot. So the first resort that you can do, that you have, is to just not go to work. If someone can, assuming, if someone can not go to work, then they're not supposed to go to work. The fast will take precedence. If someone has to go to work, which is usually the case, if they have to go to work, and their work is in a way, or their body is in a way that they will reach a point where they just can't bear it anymore, then yes, they break the fast. Now, this is the question that was posed a few days ago. And I'll share it here because it might be applicable to others as well. Just because a person knows that throughout the day they will reach a point, they have to break their fast, they're not supposed to say, okay, breaking the fast is worse than not having the intention to fast at all. Yes. Someone asked me this the other day, so I felt like some people might have this mentality, that since I know I'm not going to fast, then let's just not fast at all. No, here the ulama, they say that you are supposed to fast, wake up with the intention of fasting, all of that, just like everyone else, and then you continue the fast. If it reaches a point where it's unbearable, you break it. Even though you're sure that will happen throughout the day, probably. Still, you wait till then, that's when you break it. You don't just wake up and have the biggest breakfast that you want and all of that. No. One more explanation that I'll give here is, there are some individuals whose work is in a way that, of course, they have to go, and it's in a way that if they don't have a meal in the morning or in the noontime before they reach that unbearable hardship, if they don't do that, then they won't have enough energy to fulfill that job. And there's no way to change the job, there's no way to take off from work and all of that. We're assuming this, okay? We're assuming this. There's no choice but for them to go to work. They have to go. Then here, the fuqaha, they tell you that the maraja will say that if their work depends on it, yes, it's okay for them to have the meal even in the morning. Okay? But see, I'm explaining this. This shouldn't be an excuse for anybody. The Quran says, بَلِ الْإِنسَانَ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ بَصِيرًا. You know what's going on in your heart. وَلَوْ أَلْقَى مَعَاذِيرًا. Even if you bring excuses. Right? This I'm explaining this for those scenarios that really are, this rule is applicable to them. It might be very, 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 very few cases that this will apply. But I have to explain this. That some people, they fall for this. That they say, oh, if I'm going to reach a point where I have to break it, then I'll just not fast in the day. No, you have to fast. When you reach that point where you have to break it and there's no other choice, okay, fine, you broke it, you have to also make that day up. Plus, they say when you break it, it's not like, okay, now that I broke it, I can go on for the rest of the day and eat as much as I like. No. The amount that's necessary to get rid of that state of unbearable hunger that you might have, or unbearable hardship that you're facing. Okay, are we clear? Are there any questions about this? No? Someone was saying, I don't pray. Why? Because when I pray, I don't pay attention in my namaz. And that's even worse than not praying at all. So I don't pray. I was like, oh my God. But the Maraja, none of them says prayer is wajib when you can pay attention in it. They say you're supposed to do it anyway. Same thing here. Recite Salawat. There's a request for Fatiha for Brother Muhammad Yasin, Mumtaz Hussain, and Dilshad Begum. We can recite the Fatiha before we begin. Bismillah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين. We reach the verse that goes إن الأبرار يشربون من كأس كان مزاجها كافورا. The abrar, which we explained yesterday, they are drinking from a container, a cup that has a pinch of kafur in it. Okay. We explained what abrar means. It means those people who do things, good things, not for anything that's going to come back to them. They do good because Allah likes it. End of story. We reach this point that although they do good deeds, but there's conditions to good deeds being accepted, for good deeds to have the desired effect that people have, that people are after when they do good deeds. What do we do good deeds for? Either it's for rewards or for our iman to grow stronger. This is the main reward actually. When you do good deeds, your iman is growing. The more the iman grows, I've said this before, the more iman grows, the more the eye of the heart opens up to Allah and sees the nur of Allah. This is the desired effect of good deeds. But we said there's at least two major conditions when it comes to doing good deeds. If I'm staying awake on the nights of Qadr, yes, my sins might be forgiven and all of that good stuff is happening, inshallah. But if I want to grow more, then I have to have taken care of a few things before that. One, we talked about iman. A Muslim, a mu'min, his deeds are accepted. And I brought verses about this, in regards to this yesterday. Those who do good deeds, but they're not mu'min, they don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, their good deeds will have the effect that they're supposed to have. It's as if they haven't done good deeds. I also explained though, there are many people out there that are not Muslim, but they still might make it. Because the truth hasn't reached them. We're talking about if a person, the truth reaches him, but he still says, I'm going to stay away from the truth, but I'm still doing good deeds. Theoretically, such an individual won't make it. So we're not the type of people who say, yeah, anyone who's not Muslim goes to hellfire. Anyone who's not Muslim, good deeds are gone. That's for Allah to decide, as I said and explained yesterday. Okay, that was the first condition. The second condition, which is very important, because inshallah we are all mu'min already. We already believe in Allah already. What's the second condition? This is the one that we have to be careful about, because sometimes we lack in this. And the amount you lack in this, to that amount, your actions won't be accepted and won't have the desired effect. What is that second condition? It is the condition of taqwa. How many times have I talked about this concept so far? I'm getting tired of it, but it's something that has to be observed. Taqwa Allah. In other words, obedience of Allah and observance of His wajib and haram. And I'll give you a story for this. In Surah Ma'idah, we have the story of Habil and Qabil. Qabil kills Habil. Why? Who are they? They are the sons of Adam. The Quran explicitly says, وَاتْلُ عَلَيْهِمْ نَبَأَ ابْنَيْ آدَمَ. Recite to them, tell them, relate to them the story of the two sons of Prophet Adam. What happened? What's their story? إِذْ قَرَّبَ قُرْبَانًا. They both made a sacrifice to Allah. So they both want to get close to Allah. Oh Allah, accept my sacrifice. So they make a sacrifice, each of them. فَتُقُبِّلَ مِنْ أَحَدِهِمَا. It was only accepted from one of them. Now what the sign was for the acceptance, if I remember correctly, one of them burned and went up to the sky or something, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, they both know one of them, their sacrifice has been accepted, the other one hasn't been accepted. So we know the story, right? The last part, which is the lesson of the story, usually is neglected though. What happens? Qabil tells Habil out of jealousy apparently, I'm going to kill you. Yeah? He accepted your gift, but he didn't accept my gift? I'll kill you. And this happens all the time. They go for a girl's hand, she says, no, I want someone else. What do? They get angry, jealous. Either they kill that person, or they throw acid in her face. These people will have to pay on the Day of Judgment. Anyway, here he says, I will kill you. What does Habil say in response? This is the important part. Apparently the whole story is being related for this lesson right here. What does Habil say in response to Qabil? In explanation of why mine was accepted, yours wasn't accepted. He says, it goes like this, that I've taken care of other things before. Now when I offer something to Allah, Allah accepts it. You didn't take care of that, and that's why yours is not accepted. Doing good deeds by itself is not enough. We both had the condition of Islam and Iman and belief in Allah and God. But the second condition, you didn't have it. إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ. Verily, only, indeed, Allah accepts from who? يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Allah only accepts from the muttaqeen. But I did a good deed. Yes, you did a good deed, but what are you after? You're after the love of Allah? You love Allah? Your heart is with Allah? Your heart is with Allah, but still it's not enough. Condition number 2 also has to be met, that throughout the day, before you actually take a gift to Allah, so that you can get His love in return, you have to have taken care of Allah's wajib and haram, so that He knows you actually love Him, so that when you give Him a gift, He takes it. قُلْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ فَاتَّبِعُونِي يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ. A verse of the Quran says, say to the people, oh people, you love Allah? إِن كُنْتُمْ تُحِبُّونَ اللَّهَ. If you really love Allah, follow me, the Prophet. What does the Prophet do? The Prophet tells them, do this, don't do that, do this, don't do that, right? Follow me, whatever I tell you. يُحْبِبْكُمُ اللَّهُ. Allah will love you back. Love, you have to prove it. You have to say it with words. So yesterday we gave the example of the diamond ring, right? We all remember that. And that she threw it in the water, in the ocean, and in the sea, instead of selling it and using the money. Those of you who were here yesterday. So that was an example for Iman and how the heart has to be with the beloved. Now let's have another example of how taqwa has to be there for a gift to be accepted. Very simple example. 2 examples. If you give a gift to somebody with one hand, and then at the same time you're slapping them across the face, will that gift hold any value when it comes to love, to proving your love and getting love in return? It doesn't make sense. You laugh at this. A better example than this. She tells you, I'm allergic to daisies. So what are you supposed to do? You're supposed to get her a rose. Duh. But then this guy goes and buys daisies. What are you going to get? You're going to get love out of this relationship? You don't wash the dishes, you don't clean up, you don't help out at home, you don't do any of that stuff, but then you tell your mom you love her. Well, she'll say, Beta, if you love me, you're supposed to do things that I tell you to throughout the day if you really love somebody. And that's why you see that usually in these relationships, the guy, he's in love with the opposite gender. Alhamdulillah, today now people fall in love with the same gender sometimes. When he's in love with a girl or something, whatever she says, he will go and do it right away to make sure that she knows he really loves her, right? Very simple. But now this guy's coming and saying, oh Allah, I love you, but I'm not listening to you throughout the day, by the way, but I still love you. Please take my gift. Still though, Allah will take the gift, inshallah. And He will give some rewards, but that main effect that we want to get out of good deeds, which is to get closer to Him, it's not happening. It won't happen. It happened in the story of Habil and Qabil like this. Qabil is doing his best. He's making a sacrifice. Allah says, I don't want it. Why? Because Allah only takes it from the muttaqeen. Who takes a gift without gift wrapping, without a nice box? You just take something and throw it in front of somebody. Here, I bought you a gift. Or no, you make it presentable. Taqwa makes things presentable. You want more? Brothers, you want more? Imam Ali alayhi salatu wasalam. He is echoing this verse that we just talked about. إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. He's echoing it, but in another wording. Pay attention to this wording. He says, لَا يَقِلُّ عَمَلٌ مَعَ التَّقْوَى. Nahj al-Balagha. No act and no good deed is small. And I'm always reciting this hadith. It's so awesome. No act and good deed is small when accompanied by taqwa. Example, the hadith isn't over yet. But let me give you an example. Some little kid comes and pushes you and starts to pick a fight with you, and you're like so much bigger than him. You're like, what are you talking about? I can just push you over and destroy you like nothing. But then all of a sudden, when you look at the kid, he's holding the hand of his cousin, which is much bigger than you. Yes? His physique is like your physique. So like you can beat the kid up, but if that kid is holding his hand, then that kid all of a sudden isn't that kid anymore. He's holding the hand of someone bigger. لا يقل عمل مع التقوى. One salawat is nothing. But if I am a muttaqeen, inshallah, that act, Imam Ali is saying, is not small because it's holding the hand of its big brother at taqwa. That's what counts. So a little salawat all of a sudden becomes something very big. Sallu ala Muhammad. But when I say it echoes that verse, and when we say Imam Ali is al-Quran al-Natiq, he knows what he's talking about. And when he says it's Quran, look at how he ends this hadith. He says, after he says, لا يقل عمل مع التقوى, it's not small. And he says, فكيف يقل? How can it be small? ما يتقبل, that which is accepted. In other words, that which will have its desired effect of getting closer to Him. So, good deeds, very good. That is the way to Allah, yes. But there are two major conditions. One is Iman, that inshallah we have. But number two is also taqwa. That's why Islam is always pushing, insisting, talk about taqwa, talk about. It's something easily said, but not easily done. And sometimes we have it, inshallah we have it. But we have to continue that till the grave. It has to continue. How does Ayatul Bahjat become Ayatul Bahjat? He continues. In the story of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam, in the end, after 90 or 100 verses, I think the surah is 110 verses, I think 100 of those maybe, or 90 of them are about his story. After this story, which is the only surah in the Quran like this, which a whole story from beginning to end almost, is mentioned, he wants to conclude from his life, and the Quran is relating this to us because that's what Allah believes in. Allah won't repeat something in the Quran if it's not that important. Prophet Yusuf, he's telling all of us, do you want to take a lesson from my entire life? My lesson is summed up in 2 words. What was I saying, brothers and sisters? I was saying sometimes we have taqwa, we don't keep it forever. Sometimes you have a diet, very good, you're losing weight. Once you let go of the diet, it comes back. The weight comes back. Prophet Yusuf gives us 2 things here. He says, you want my life in 2 words? Innahu, after his father has come and his brothers have come, they all prostrate to Allah. He concludes by saying, Innahu man yattaqi wa yasbir fa inna Allah la yudi'u ajra al-muhsinin. Whoever has taqwa, alhamdulillah, we have taqwa, yes, plus wa yasbir, has patience, keeps continuing it. Just because you reach a point where now you say, alhamdulillah, I have taqwa today, doesn't mean it's over. The next day is a new day, a new test. Sometimes we have this condition. We have to continue it. Taqwa and continue. مَنْ يَتَّقِ وَيَصْبِرْ. Then Allah will not let their reward go in waste. The muhsaneen, the ones who are righteous. So this is the second condition that we have. So إِنَّ الْأَبْرَارِ. How do we get to all of these points that are very important? إِنَّ الْأَبْرَارَ يَشْرَبُونَ مِنْ كَأْسٍ. The abrar, we talked about what bar means and how the abrar do good deeds, but good deeds aren't enough, they have conditions to them. Okay. They are drinking from this cup that has a mix of kafur in it. The next verse is a very hard verse. Not in explaining it, but in breaking it down, both when it comes to Arabic syntax, we have a problem here. And there's like 10 different possibilities about this verse, but I'll explain it as simple as I can. This next verse, عَيْنًا يَشْرَبُ بِهَا عِبَادُ اللَّهِ يُفَجِّرُونَهَا تَفْجِيرًا. This عَيْنًا, we have trouble finding out exactly what it's trying to say here. But, as I said, let's simplify it. Apparently, it means something along these lines. When you translate it, it says, a spring. So the previous verse, it says, the righteous are drinking from a cup that has some kafur in it, some camphor in it. Next verse says, a spring. Okay, what does a spring have to do with anything? A spring that the ibadullah drink from. يُفَجِّرُونَهَا تَفْجِيرًا. They are bursting it and exploding. The spring, an explosion. A bursting. We'll get to that part. Let's go to the first part. عَيْنًا يَشْرَبُ بِهَا. If I'm going to just try to explain it normally, it says from a spring that the ibadullah are drinking from. So apparently this cup is filled from this spring that the ibadullah drink from. So the ibadullah are drinking from such a stream that the abrar get a cup from. What's this spring all about? How do I have access to such a spring that's so awesome? It says ibadullah. So apparently it has to do with a person being an abdullah. Once again, we're going back to taqwa again. And obedience of Allah. When it comes to this word ibadullah, there's 2 possibilities. Now look at how we're going to rule out one of them. We're going to get a little technical here. It's good. Sometimes even if we don't get what's being said, so at least know there's some stuff going on in the hawza that's, kind of like deeper. Anyway, well, this is not that deep anyway, but we'll just say it. It's not too deep. We want to find out which of these 2 possibilities is meant here. Which ibadullah are drinking from this spring? That in today's terms is probably soda that's flowing. Back then it was kafur that's flowing. Ibadullah sometimes can mean a bande khuda. We have this in Urdu, right? Do you say bande khuda or banda khuda? Bande khuda. In Farsi we say the same thing, bande khuda. Somebody, a bande khuda. Yeah? Anybody. We say, Ibadallah, ittaqullah, O people, O servants of Allah, O people, everybody, be good people, have taqwa. We say this, right? O Ibadallah. So if we take this meaning, then what is that verse saying? It's saying that this spring that's running, anyone who is a creation of Allah drinks from it. Is this what is meant or not? Is it possible for all human beings, any Bandi Khuda, to drink from this or not? When we look at the verse, apparently not. Apparently it means those who were proper, true abds of Allah, servants of Allah. What does a slave do? As I said before, listens to his master, right? Here it has to mean those servants of Allah that would listen to everything Allah was saying. Or at least they tried that. Not any Bandi Khuda. Why? Two reasons. Number one, the verse is speaking in a praising tone. I want you to pay attention here, guys. It's speaking in a praising tone. That this spring is something that Ibadullah drink from. Being a Bandi Khuda, a person that was created by God, is that something that's in our jurisdiction, in our free will, or not? For example, someone's born with green eyes. Everyone praises him. Are they praising him because it's something that he did? Or are they praising the green eyes because, I don't know, if green eyes are considered nice looking and stuff, you know? Or white skin, you know, I know you guys are into that probably. You know, the fair skin tone. So this isn't something that you praise somebody for because they're not the ones who were behind it. It wasn't in their hands to come to be born like this. So yeah, you might be saying, yeah, it's nice and nice looking and stuff, but at the end of the day, if you really dissect it, it's someone else who deserves the praise, not that individual who bears this trait. Alright. Someone's a Bandi Khuda. The verse is praising them for this. Well, just because you were a Bandi Khuda, you were created by God, doesn't make you deserve the praise. While the verse has a praising tone. It says, you see that cup that they're holding? The Ibadullah drink from a spring that this cup comes from. So if you're praising somebody, so this shows that this doesn't mean just anybody can drink from it. So Ibadullah here must mean something special. And that's where the whole story of Abdullah and Ubudiyyah and obedience of Allah comes in. So those people who were real Ibadullah, and they say one of the reasons why Imam al-Hussein alayhi salatu wassalam is called Abu Abdullah. Yes, he had a son by the name of Abdullah. True. But he wasn't given this name, Abu Abdullah, this kunya. He was given it before he even had this son. They say one of the reasons. When you go and look in the commentaries on Ziyarat Ashura, right in the beginning, Assalamu alaikum ya Aba Abdullah, they explain that one of the reasons might be this, that he is if there is anyone today that is a true Abdullah and Abd of Allah, it's because of the sacrifice that Imam Hussein made. Or else if he hadn't made the sacrifice, we would have all been somewhere else. Islam would have been gone. So he is the father of this ummah. Imam Hussein. Okay. So these Ibadullah that are drinking, it's because they have that proper title of being an Abdullah. One. Two, theologically, it doesn't even read with Islam. It doesn't add up for Ibadullah here to mean those people who are just people, just because there were people that drinking from it. It's a false statement. Because not all the people will go to Jannah. Not all people will be drinking from those springs. We know that some people eventually will not make it to heaven. At least the ones who were enemies of God. They know God and they say, we're going to go against you. Let me give you a story here. We're back in Iran, back in the day when we were in the younger years of the Hawza, we would have Salat al-Jama'ah, of course, 5 times a day in our Hawza. And the Imam Jama'ah, which right now is a big figure, I'm not going to say his name, he related a story. He said that Bin Baz, the Grand Mufti of Saudi, he had said once, now either he was there, the Jama'ah leader that was relating this, either he had heard this himself or he was relating it from someone who had heard it, that Bin Baz had said, even if the Prophet comes to life and says, Ali ibn Abi Talib is to come after me, we still won't accept it from him. Apparently they understand better than the Prophet. He had said this. So these people, if someone really knows, Abu Jahl knows, Abu Lahab knows that this is the truth, still goes against it, yeah, they're going to be in the hellfire. So it's not true. But still, he's a Bandi Khuda too, right? Abu Lahab, Allah's not his Lord? Allah didn't create him? So this ibadullah can't mean everybody that was created by God is drinking from those springs. Theologically, we have a problem here. Alright, so we rule out that possibility. What is left is those who are real ibadullah. We did some Hawza tafsir right here. I'm sorry if we went a little deep. Okay. So they are drinking from it because they are ibadullah. يُفَجِّرُونَهَا تَفْجِيرًا. Explosion. Yeah. Bursting. They are bursting these springs. What does that mean? What is it talking about? Not only do they drink from this spring, they are the source of it. It's not like there's a spring that God creates in Jannah and then we go and drink from it. No, they themselves create it and they drink from it. Oh my God. Like you just wave your hand like Kit Kat right in front of you and then you eat it. How good is that? It's just such a good feeling when you eat your own creation. They are the source. يُفَجِّرُونَهَا تَفْجِيرًا. Why does it use the word bursting? Because when you dig a spring or you dig a well, they say the water bursts out. So here, they are digging. Let me tell you a story actually. I like this story. It's about Imam Ali alayhi salam again. And it's because of these stories that you take pride in him being your master. So, when Imam Ali is Khalifa, there's a person by the name of Abu Nayzar, if I remember correctly. Yes, Abu Nayzar. Abu Nayzar, they say he was the son of one of the kings of Habasha, or Najran, if I'm one of these two. It was a Christian country. And the king dies, and the only son they have is this individual, Nasr bin Abi al-Nayzar. They come to him, he's in Medina with the Prophet, he's very young, he doesn't want to do anything with this king business. They come to him, oh you're a king, he says I don't care, I'm living with the real king, the Prophet. So he stays there, he doesn't go to become king. And then after the Prophet, he stays with Imam Ali alayhi salam. And he serves Imam Ali alayhi salam. They say one day Imam Ali comes into the field that he's working in. Imam Ali tells him, what do you have to eat? Because he was serving the Imam Ali. He says, I have a food that I made with some bad oil and stuff, or bad fat. They didn't have oil back then, but they would use fat, and they would melt it probably and use that. And it's not befitting of the Khalifa of the Muslimin. And of course, probably Imam Ali has a little smile on his face like, that's not what I'm all about. Maybe others were like that. I ain't like that. Bring whatever you have. So he brings, Imam Ali goes and washes his hand and the stream comes back. He eats that. They say it was like a form of a squash. Something made out of squash. A halwa made out of squash. Or something like that. Something that although we've been fasting for about 15, 16 hours, we won't even have it for iftar if they put it in front of us. Unless we put a lot of chili and other stuff on it. So Imam Ali has that food, he goes back, they say he washes his hand with sand first and then he washes it in the stream. I'm just giving you these details, it's interesting. So Imam Ali comes back, he says, where's the shovel or the hoe, whatever they used back then. He takes that hoe, he goes into a well, a dry well or a spring or something. He starts digging. He comes out. And the narration goes like this, that the Imam's face is full of sweat. Yes, our Imam was a hard worker. He goes back into the well again, boom, all of a sudden water gushes and bursts out, and they say Imam Ali rushed out of the well. And the well is full of water, the spring is springing with water, and right there he says, bring paper and pen. Bring paper and pen, what does he say? He says, the two fields or lands known as the spring of Abu Nayzar, he writes this, and Bugha, another land. So two things that are here. What does he do? He says, they are a sadaqah from the servants of Allah, Abdullah. Once again, we got the same word again. Abdullah again. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu and then wa rasuluhu. Everyone's after this, brothers and sisters. Where are we going? Where are we headed? What are we after? What's our priority? Don't you love it? When you find things again and again about what you're talking about. The servant of Allah, Abdullah Ali ibn Abi Talib, they are a sadaqah from him. To who? To the poor people of Medina and the travelers that are stuck without money, Ibn Sabil. So that he, meaning himself, Imam Ali, can protect his face from the heat of the fire on the Day of Judgment. Yes, we have hadith, right? That sadaqah is a shield for the fire in Jahannam and all of that, from what I remember. They are not, these two pieces of land with these springs and wells, they are not to be sold or given away until they are inherited by Allah, meaning until the Day of Judgment. And He is the best of inheritors. Unless Hassan and Hussein are in need of them, in which case they will be for them to use as they please, and they are not for anyone other than them. He writes that. Right there, he does a waqf, and it's over. So he works hard. He might take as much as is necessary for himself, but the rest he is serving society. Serving society. I've heard the greats, they say the first thing, after you take care of taqwa, of course, the first thing that you can benefit from is namaz al-shab. The second is serving the people. Either their dunya, their akhirah, serving them somehow. He's Aitam of Al Muhammad. So Ibn Hisham says in his book, he says, Imam Hussein later on had a debt that he had to pay off. Muawiyah finds out about Imam Hussein's debt. And this time period of Imam Hussein and Muawiyah, after Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, is an interesting period. It's nice to read a little bit on that. How Imam Hussein was during Muawiyah's time, not during Yazid's time. During Muawiyah's time, and their relationship, how it was. Of course, the Khalif, the Khulafa school, the school of the Khulafa, they portrayed, in the school of Bukhari and Muslim, they portrayed as if there was a lot of love here. That Muawiyah would summon Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam every year, Imam Hassan alayhi salam every year, these two brothers, and would take care of them and give them gifts and send them back towards Medina and all of that. And of course, lots of people fall for this. Let things pass, and then we'll talk about it sometime. Okay. So Imam Hussein has a debt. Muawiyah offers him 200,000 dinars. Dinar, not dirham. Dirham is silver coin. Dinar are gold coins. 200,000 gold coins. For this well, for this spring, Ain of Bani Nuzayr, or whatever it was, Nayzar, sorry, Abu Nayzar. What does Imam Hussein say? He says, my father gave it as charity to protect his face from the heat of the fire, and I will not sell it for anything. I know I'm in debt, but I won't sell it for anything. Okay. So this is a little story on the side about springs and bursting and stuff, and working hard to get this spring to burst. So now someone says, oh my God, we fasted, we went through all this hardship, we didn't talk behind people's backs, it was so hard. Some people say it's wajib sometimes to talk behind someone else's back, because you're under so much pressure that if you don't say that this guy did messed up somewhere, you might lose your life. So it's wajib to protect your life, so it becomes wajib to do layla. Some people, that's how they fix it up. Anyway, we went through all this hardship not to commit haram. Now when we go to Jannah, we have to burst the springs ourselves. That is not fair. But of course, we all know the answer that that's not the case. Allama Qatawai here, he explains. He says, the Quran says, وَلَهُمْ مَا يَشَاءُونَ. They have and they get whatever they will. The Quran says, you will it, you got it. That's all that's necessary, to will it. يَشَاءُونَ. They will it to be here, and then all of a sudden, boom, it gushes out and they can benefit from it. And we have this hadith that's famous, you hear it a lot. It's not in our primary sources, I'll say that. But it doesn't really go against any of the Islamic teachings, so I'll mention it. It's a famous hadith. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, listen, Abdi, my abd, my banda, listen to me. Ati'ni hatta aj'alaka mithli. Obey me. Once again we have obedience, subhanAllah. Obedience again. Obey me. How do we obey Allah? Wajib and haram. Well, how do I know my wajib and haram? Well, I go to my marja. If the imam of the time is accessible, I go to him. But is he accessible or not? Some people, they fall for this fallacy. They say, I only follow a ma'soom. True, show me the ma'soom, I'll follow him before you follow him. There is no ma'soom right now. The ma'soomin has said, go and follow the ruwat of our hadith, the ones who narrate our hadith, the ones who know our hadith. Follow them. Right now it's the maraj'. Alright, so that's where I get my wajib and haram from. Very simple. Abdi, ati'ni, obey me in what I tell you to do and what not to do, and so that I can make you like myself. Allah is saying this. This is hadith Qudsi. I may feel like myself, oh, you're saying that we're going to be a God? No, of course, there is only one wajibul wujud, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Mithli, in what sense am I going to be like God? He explains, أَنَا أَقُولُ لِشَيْءٍ كُنْ فَيَكُونَ فَأَنْتَ تَقُولُ لِشَيْءٍ كُنْ فَيَكُونَ. In this aspect, you will be like me. That when I want something, I tell it be and it is. You can also be like that. You say be and it is. So the springs here that they are bursting out and we are bringing out the ground, it's not like we're digging, and it's not like we're shoveling and all that kind of stuff. No sweating there, brothers and sisters, inshallah. As a matter of fact, they say that the Quran says that لا يرون فيها شمسا ولا زمهريرا. They see no sun in there. They see no extreme cold there. There is none of that. You don't worry about it. No sweating, inshallah. We're sweating enough in this life. And I'll end with this hadith. I'll end with this hadith. How much time do I have for it?
You have 9 minutes.
Huh? 5 minutes.
9.
Not till iftar, till the time. How much time do I have so they don't tell me you went over your time? That's how much. Inshallah, 4 minutes. Okay, inshallah.
Make it 6.
I'll end with this hadith and maybe a little explanation. Imam al-Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam, he says that about this عَيْنًا يَشْرَبُ بِهَا عِبَادُ اللَّهِ. He says, هي عين في دار النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم تفجر إلى دور الأنبياء والمؤمنين. He says this spring that the Quran talks about is a spring that explodes into, I know it sounds kind of rough and harsh, no, that's not used, that bursts into the homes of the Anbiya, the prophets, and the mu'mineen. It goes through those homes. Think about it. If you paid attention so far, brothers and sisters, over these nights, we've talked about this again and again, and I'll just end with this point, that you can see that there is so much that Allah has to offer, and we'll still get, there's more that we'll get to, but it all revolves around one thing, and that's just how much we're obedient to Allah. I can't say this enough. Let me just tell you this. There are akhlaq lessons in Qom. People will go to, I've been in these myself. Years and years, I'm giving you the cream of what we have, what you hear there. Sometimes you would see hundreds of sheikhs are listening in the akhlaq lesson of the great Ayatollah so-and-so, who everyone knows is very, very, very up there. All he keeps repeating is obedience, obedience, obedience. I don't know what he sees, that even in people who are in the hawza, that there's always a chance of slipping. It's like a diet. You have to have muraqabah. There are some who lose weight very, very well. Why? Because they count every calorie. They are careful. Anything they put in their body, they calculate the calories first, and then they put it in their body. And then there are others who say, oh, I'll burn it off, I'll work out, I'll lose it. Those people are never in shape like these. I actually saw a little interview they had with 2 of these bodybuilders. One of them was always winning. The other one isn't winning. He's always like 2nd or 3rd place. They asked him about their diets. He says, I weigh everything and I calculate it, then I put it in my body. The other one is like, yeah, I burn it all off. Yeah, that's why you're always 3rd place, loser. So, for a person who wants to make sure that he has this ubudiyya, one, he has to learn which foods are more harmful, which foods are less. How many calories this one has, how many calories that one has. One. In other words, they have to learn their wajib and haram. Then, before putting it in their body, in their spiritual body, that action, you're feeding your spiritual self with your actions. Very simple. You are what you eat. Exactly, yeah, you are what you eat spiritually too. What do? Before everything that they do, they ask themselves subconsciously, is this something that Allah does not want me to do? Is this something Allah wants me to do necessarily wajib? Then they put it in their body. Without this muraqabah, vigilance, that these akhlaq teachers are always talking about, without this vigilance, it'll happen eventually. You will put something in there you're not supposed to put in there. That's why we have to learn all of this. Do we have any spare time? No. If it's that hard, we don't have any spare time anymore, brothers and sisters. We don't. Learning all of these things and then applying them. They're both very hard. Inshallah, Allah gives us that tawfiq. Before I end, I would like to ask for a Fatiha for the marhumin of the sponsors of tonight. We've been asked to recite a Fatiha for their souls. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yeah. May Allah forgive all our sins. May Allah forgive the sins of all of our marhumin, especially the brothers and sisters that were involved for tonight. And may Allah raise and elevate the souls of their loved ones that have departed this world and raise them with Muhammad and Al Muhammad. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam.